Writing dozens of verses for a single song, fighting through cancer to put on a good show, the obituaries for these musicians remind us that there's more to rock stars than meets the eye. Gregg Allman rose to fame alongside his brother Duane as a founding member of the Allman Brothers Band. Before they became iconic rockers and before Duane was tragically killed in a 1971 motorcycle crash, the brothers were sure that they wanted to be professional musicians. However, their dreams were in jeopardy because of the ongoing war in Vietnam. As noted in Legacy's obituary for Gregg Allman, he and Duane were both of an optimal age to get drafted. Duane had an out, though, since their father had died years earlier. He was the oldest male in the family, thereby making him ineligible for the draft. Gregg, however, was ripe for the picking. The brothers put their heads together and determined the best way for Gregg to avoid the draft was for him to develop a physical malady that would prevent the military from wanting him. So Duane came up with the idea that Gregg should shoot himself in the foot. After doing some research, Gregg picked a spot between two bones that he thought would do the least damage, and proceeded with his brother's plan. After successfully shooting himself, he could still walk, but he never went to Vietnam. James Brown was often called the hardest working man in show business, and his live shows were a big reason for this. Biography reports that in the 1950s and 60s, the soul musician played shows 5 to 6 times a week. Despite his dense schedule, James Brown's energy, dance moves, and unadulterated vocal passion made all of his concerts a sight to behold. According to the Associated Press's obituary for the Godfather of Soul, he would regularly lose 2 or 3 pounds after each performance. Presumably, most of this was water weight from sweating so much, but even so, that's a lot of work and a lot of sweat. According to his attorney Jay Ross, Brown kept this intense routine up even while he was dealing with prostate cancer in his later years. As Ross noted in the obituary, he'd always give it his all to give his fans the type of show they expected.
I got ants in my pants!
Punk rock is inherently anti-authoritarian, so when the obituary for the Ramones guitarist Johnny Ramone reported that he had a favorite president, many of his punk disciples were surprised. After all, what self-respecting punk rocker would revere a politician? What's even more surprising is that it turned out that Ramone's favorite president was none other than the father of modern conservatism, Ronald Reagan. As surprising as this may be, there are surely plenty of Americans that cite Reagan as their favorite president, and there are even subcultures of punk that stand against the left-wing values often associated with the movement. That's not to say Ramones fans shouldn't be surprised by Johnny Ramone's political standing. According to Far Out magazine, Ramone hid the fact that he subscribed to Republican values from the public for nearly 3 decades after the band hit it big. It wasn't until the Ramones were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2002 that the guitarist spoke out about it, saying, "God bless President Bush and God bless America." Far Out also reports that Ramone even made a top 10 list of his favorite Republicans. Reagan was at the top, and number 2 was perhaps one of the country's most vilified politicians to date, Richard Nixon. Singer, songwriter, and poet Leonard Cohen had a slow but steady climb to musical greatness. He recorded his first album in 1967 after struggling to find success as a poet. According to his obituary on Legacy, when he started making music, fans mostly discovered him via word of mouth and through covers of his songs performed by more famous musicians. Cohen's most well-known and covered song is surely Hallelujah, which was originally released on his 1984 album Various Positions. While the song came about during something of a career slump for Cohen, Rolling Stone reports that the song has since spawned around 300 cover versions. As his obituary notes, it took Cohen 5 years to finish writing the song, partially because he had about 80 verses written for it. Since he managed to whittle that selection down to just 4, its clear editing was also among his many notable skills. Even though Cohen had written so many verses, the song had a very particular meaning that he was trying to convey. Speaking about the lyrics, Cohen once said, "This world is full of conflicts and full of things that cannot be reconciled. But there are moments when we can reconcile and embrace the whole mess, and that's what I mean by hallelujah." The song explains that many kinds of hallelujahs do exist, and all the perfect and broken hallelujahs have equal value.
You're either a singer or you're not a singer. You either affirm the life of the heart or you don't.
When Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts died in August 2021, it was a devastating loss to the band, his family, and his legions of fans. Despite playing in one of the most colorful and notoriously wild bands in rock and roll history, Watts deliberately spent most of his career away from the spotlight. His New York Times obituary provided a glimpse of just how different he was from his bandmates Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ronnie Wood, all of whom have earned a reputation for hard partying and sexual promiscuity. Watts once told Rolling Stone that starting in the mid-60s, after every Stones show, he would go back to his hotel room alone, pull out a sketchbook, and draw the room. He once said, "I've drawn every bed I've slept in on tour since 1967. It's a fantastic non-book." The partying and the hooking up with fans just didn't appeal to Watts. In the book, according to the Rolling Stones, he's quoted as saying, "I loved playing with Keith in the band. I still do. But I wasn't interested in being a pop idol sitting there with girls screaming. It's not the world I come from. It's not what I want it to be, and I still think it's silly."